off your engine! Ford has just come out with an F-150 hybrid that has the best gas mileage ratings of all the big pickup trucks. And they're not doing it with a 4-cylinder engine like GM put that horrible little 4-cylinder engine in their giant pickup truck, and they just don't hold up. Now Ford's doing it with a V6 engine, and they can get 25 miles a gallon in town and 26 on the highway with a V6 engine. That's a pretty good rating for a F-150 full-size pickup. And a little pickup, it's full-size pickup. 6-cylinder engine has a reasonable amount of pickup too. It's got 300-something horsepower. So I'd much rather go for that than a GM that's got a 4-cylinder engine in it. Or if you start messing around with diesel engines, if you've ever owned a diesel, you know they can be a real pain to maintain. And if you don't drive them all the time, the diesel fuel has a tendency of gelling and going bad. Gasoline engines can sit a long time. Start them up, away they go. A lot of guys don't want a diesel. And anyways, this particular setup, hey, being a hybrid, it gets better gas mileage than the diesel ones do too. Chaseboy4 says, Scotty, my transmission pops out of 5th gear on my Honda Civic. It magically popped out. Now it's popping out all the time at 5th gear only. Transmission fluid's good. What could it be? Unfortunately for you, when any transmission pops out of the top gear, 5th gear, it's 99.9% of the time internal wear in the transmission. Over the last 53 years, every single car that I worked on that would pop out of top gear, if it had 5 gears, it would pop out of 5th. If it had 4 gears, it would pop out of 4th. Meant there's internal wear, and then when you step on the gas in that gear, it pops itself out of gear. The linkage on those Hondas, I never see them break. They really don't have any problems. It's a very robust, simple system. But there's just something about standard transmissions that when they do pop out of their top gear, it means there's something internal worn in 5th gear. But on the other hand, it's got 4 other gears, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you don't use 5th gear, it could last forever. You don't want to use that 5th gear now though, because if you keep using it, will wear more. And eventually, I've seen it where if you keep using it, it keeps popping out. The 5th gear actually breaks. And when it breaks, it falls inside the transmission. Goodbye transmission. But if you don't use 5th gear anymore, I've had customers driving 5, 6 years or as a 4-speed, and they still work fine. As long as you don't use the 5th gear, it's not wearing, and it could still go. Because if it does break, then you're going to need another transmission. And to actually fix it, it's a Honda transmission. You got to pull it off. You got to split the cases. It's an insane job that hardly anybody does. Krabby's44 says, I got an 03 Lincoln Town Car. 136,000 miles. The door locks won't open from the inside or with the fobs. Only unlocked using the numbered keypad on the door. Or the key. Only the driver's side has a hole, of course. I've tried different things. What the heck? Use the key then, or the keypad. Here's the thing. Those things have modules. And odds are your driver's door module has gone bad. Now, sometimes you can reprogram them. You might find a guy and see, hey, can you reprogram it and see if it works? And if it does, great. Sometimes they do get glitchy. But from my own experience, those door modules go bad all the time. Now, you're going to have to pay a guy to replace the door module, to reprogram the door module. And if you don't care and your key works and the keypad on the outside works, what the heck? Drive it that way. Because as those things age, all that computer crap starts to fall apart. And, okay, it's an 03, right? So the thing's 18 years old. I'm amazed that it's still working. As the town cars age, all that fancy stuff can break. The engines and trannies, they can go if you take care of them. But the electronics, there's a lot of stuff in them that you'll just live with as they age, unless you want to spend a small fortune replacing modules, reprogramming stuff. That whole thing is keyless opening stuff. What a bunch of crap. I mean, keys work perfectly fine, and they last forever. Some of the cars don't even have the keyholes in them anymore. And then what do you do if it breaks? Fred Showerbeck says, I got an '05 Subaru Impreza. Misfire and cylinder number 4. I changed the spark plugs, but it came back. And it judders when I'm accelerating hard, and it idles poorly. I think maybe it's a fuel issue. A fuel issue isn't going to make one cylinder misfire. They would all misfire. Understand something about Subaru. A bunch of those Subarus, they had to rebuild the engines because the valves were bad. Get your VIN number. Call up a Subaru dealer, see if that's covered under the one, and they will have to replace every valve on your engine. If the valves start to go out, you'll get misfire in certain cylinders first as one valve goes out before the other. And a bunch of those Subarus, they had to replace them all because they didn't build the valve springs right, and you may have one of those. If they do, they got to fix it for free. Now, if it isn't that, of course, get your Coil on plug from 4, put it on 1, put 1 on 4. If the misfire moves to 1 from 4, that means the coil is bad. Try the simple stuff first. But it's not a fuel issue per se, because if it was, they'd be all the different ones. Now, it could be a fuel injector. If it was, you could put the number 4 injector on number 1 on 4, and if it moved, it was that injector. It's always start with the simple things, but do check. Could be that they got to replace the valves in that engine because Subaru had problems with it, and they had to recall a whole bunch of them. U.S. Man F-150 says, I got a 2019 VW Tiguan automatic. It has 27,000 kilometers on the clock. Whenever I put it in drive and change the reverse and back, the whole car jerks. Help. Volkswagens make some of the worst transmissions in the world. Let's hope your transmission isn't going out. Now, it's a 2019, so it's certainly under warranty. Maybe you got lucky and one of the motor or transmission mounts broke, and that's going to jerk and clunk. Which in itself is bad enough. The car's only 1 year old, right? So I tell people don't buy them. Those Tiguans, I had customers buy them, they fell apart. In 3 or 4 years, piles of junk. You want to pray that it's like a motor mount, or maybe a CV axle got ripped and broken or something from running over something. That could happen. But let's face it, a year-old vehicle should not be doing that in the first place. It should be under warranty. With 27,000 kilometers, take it back to the dealer and take pictures of it doing it, jerking, so they can't say, oh no, there's nothing wrong. Because that's what they're always going to say. Because they don't want to fix anything free under warranty. That's just the way it is. Basically though, if you got brains, next time, don't ever buy another Volkswagen. Their products are horrible. Now, you never know. Maybe they're going to make good electric cars. They're going to be making them in Chattanooga, Tennessee down the road next year. Maybe their electric cars will be better. Who knows? All I know is their gasoline cars are garbage as they age. Jasperian22 says, hey, I got a 2010 Civic, got my front struts assembly KYB about a month ago. My rear shocks I got from Mavis Discount Shop. I have uneven ride height. The driver's side is lower before I get my front struts. I'm having uneven ride height with the same problem with the new struts. Mechanic said there's nothing wrong with the front end, and the Honda dealership can't figure it out. Here's the thing. I would not get discount shocks or struts. I have had that happen personally. I've had companies send me stuff to test out. And I got a discount set from China. They sent it to me for my wife's Lexus. I put it on and the car rode wrong because there are piles of junk that weren't manufactured correctly. They have to be the perfect height. They have to have the perfect springs. In the case of the one I have, it was a quick strut. It came with the front strut, the cartridge, the spring, everything. You just bolted the old one off and bolted it on. You didn't need a spring compressor, which in itself is a good idea, easier job. But when you find the quality is worse and they don't know what they're doing, you don't want to buy those discount stuff. It just doesn't pan out. It's bad enough figuring out what's wrong with the car. Then if you figure out what's wrong and then you get a crappy part and put it on and it's still wrong, you might find out later that it's the crappy part that's wrong. You actually diagnosed it correctly. And in the case of the struts that I got, it was kind of counterintuitive. I looked at the original struts and the springs were a certain diameter. The new ones, the springs, had a bigger diameter. So you think bigger is better, stronger, right? Nah, they were too stiff and it rode like crap because the springs were too thick and too stiff. Don't think that Lexus doesn't know what they're doing. Toyota Motor Company knows what they're doing. They put thinner springs in so it rode good. You put thicker ones in, it rides worse. And you want a good ride in a Lexus. It's fine if you want to do that on an off-road truck, but not on a luxury car. In your case, don't buy the discount stuff. It's going to bite you in the rear end. Well, here's something that'll make Toyota Tundra fans happy and others that have V8 engines in Toyotas. Toyota has a secondary air injection system that breaks all the time and costs a fortune to repair. Well, there's a company out there called Hewitt, Hewitt, and Hewitt Tech has a bypass system for that. I had a customer who recently bought one and put it on, and it saved him a whole bunch of money. It was going to cost him well over $1,500 to fix that stupid secondary air system, and this Hewitt Tech company has a kit you can buy, and he put it on himself, and he saved himself a lot of hassle. So, when there are problems with certain vehicles, you don't necessarily have to shell out a ton of money. You can find that there are ways to bypass these systems when they aren't working right. Just like that horrendous GM multi-cylinder turn-off system where sometimes they're 8, sometimes they're 6, and it shuts the cylinder deactivation. Garbage systems, if you got a car like that and you don't like it, believe me, you can get a kit to turn that off. There's always a way to get around this stuff. And in this case, hey, there's a lot of those, millions of those V8 engines out there with secondary air injection systems that have problems. This Hewitt Tech company, hey, good on these Hewitt Tech guys. That's what the world needs. People that can find what mistakes others made and then fix it so you can spend less money and not have to deal with it again. Because I've had customers with the Toyota SCIS systems break, and you fix it, and then if they have it a few years later, the stupid thing breaks again. Hewitt Tech, hey, good on you. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.